Good evening, friends. So another session to begin with. Just to not taking much of time, going through that sanitation value chain section from containment to transport to treatment and all what we are going on in the next few sessions. Today's session keeps an importance on the people. It's not our safety, but the people who are working for us, the sanitation worker safety. That is what this session is. We often tend to ignore them, their safety, their dignity in the society, how they should be protected. So that's what our session today mainly is. And the other part of the session, the later part of the session, if you remember in previous session, Mr. Rohit Kakkar spoke about the septic tanks, the code of practices, and in the part B of the septic tank code of practices, he spoke about scheduled desludging on the operation and maintenances. So today we'll also talk about on this session, just to give you a brief, but to give you an elaborate context on what the conversation would be around for today's conversation, I would hand it over to Professor Chari to set the context and bring in our speakers for the day. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Banerjee. Good afternoon, friends. I'm at the airport, so it's a bit of noisy situation here. Josna, can you hear me or is it difficult?
We can hear you clearly, sir.
No, we can hear you clear, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, friends, we are discussing all these days about citywide inclusive sanitation. And we have been using this framework. Josna, if you can expand this. Basically, what we are trying to do is we're trying to achieve equitable sanitation. We're also trying to achieve safely managed sanitation. And we want to deliver sanitation as a practitioner on a sustainable basis. And to do all that, you need systems. You need to have authority. You need to have a very clear, accountable institution. And we need money, resources, human resources, and so on and so forth. So today, the conversation is safety. Now, safety often is perceived as safety from an environmental point of view, the discharge norms, the treated wastewater or treated septage. So that's a typical safety perspective. As Dr. Banerjee said, safety of the workers, staff, the safety of people who are associated with delivery of the sanitation service on a sustainable basis is equally important. And today, the focus of our conversation is about leading practices, good practices in the context of sanitation worker safety. Those who are delivering this service 365 days round the clock for the citizens, for the authority. How do we ensure that their quality of life and their dignity is ensured? Not only just in terms of money, but also their own well-being is ensured. Now, as ASCII, we keep track of all the incidents and accidents that happen in India. Now, the data that I'm speaking now, we have analyzed almost like 600 incidents or deaths. And we found that much of these incidents happen in septic tanks, not even in sewer systems. So almost like 50% of the incidents, deaths took place in septic tanks. And these septic tanks are situated in private properties. It is not always public institutions are responsible, their contracts are dysfunctional. No. In fact, many of these incidents are happening because as a citizen, I call a service provider, I don't enforce safety precautions. I don't check whether the sanitation worker is actually following protocols, and because of that, there's a compromise and the incidents have happened. So this is number one. Number two, the cause of concern is that most of these deaths, those who died, are in the age group of 22 years to 30, 35 years. That's a major cause of concern. And the compensation they get for mortality and morbidity is also very, very less. Now, it is in this context, we need to revisit this whole subject of safety of sanitation workers. And today, we have two eminent speakers. We have two interesting case studies. One coming from Navi Mumbai. Dr. Baba Saab is a deputy commissioner of Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation in India. And we have Miss Meghna doing some excellent work in Orissa, Tamil Nadu, and many other places. So we will hear about a city case study, and we will also hear about the state level interventions. And then we draw lessons from these and what needs to be done. Now, the second part of this today's discussion, as Dr. Banerjee said, which is also linked to worker safety, is about scheduled desludging. Scheduled desludging is about a process wherein the local government actually conducts this periodic cleaning of the septic tanks as per the regulation. And like in India, it's once in 3 years. In Malaysia, it could be once in 3 years or 5 years. In Japan, it's every year, as we saw. So how do you operationalize? What are the step-by-step processes involved in operationalizing the scheduled desludging, which has a bearing on the safety also? So these are the two discussions we would have. I would now invite Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation. I'm thankful to Navi Mumbai Corporation represented by Baba Saheb Saheb, Dr. Baba Saheb Saheb, and I request him to share his experience, how Navi Mumbai has become a role model for India with regard to sanitation, safety workers, and well-being. Of course, they are a sewer system, predominantly a city with sewer system, but they also have non-sewer sanitation situations. They use both and then improve the quality of life of sanitation workers. So I now invite him to deliver his talk. Over to you, sir. Mr. Vikrant, can you hear us? Yeah. If you can
Good
take it
afternoon.
full screen.
Good afternoon, Chari sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chari sir, and all dignitaries. I am representing Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation on behalf of our Municipal Commissioner.
Can you put it on full screen, please, Mr. Vikrant?
Navi Mumbai
Thank
Municipal Corporation is a planned city, and I will give next. I will give information about Navi Mumbai Corporation. Our city is a planned city, and our area is 110 square kilometer with approximate 15 lakhs population. In Swachh Sarvekshan, we were ranked first in Maharashtra from when Swachh Sarvekshan started, and we are third in 2020-22 in India. We are only city in Maharashtra having a 5-star JFC certification, and from 2021, Water Plus certification is started, and first time we were Water Plus in India, and we were alone in Maharashtra, and we maintained that Water Plus certification, which is topmost certification in ODF category. Next. Our city is having near about 225 gardens, and our plant ratio in city is 3 plants per 4 person. But we are planning that each person should have our ratio should be a plant per person, and our solid waste generation is near more than 700 metric ton per day, and 100% solid waste is treated, and whatever inert is retained, which is scientifically disposed in scientific landfill site. We are rich in our water source. We are lifting near about 450 mld water from our own dam, and our all vehicles are environment friendly. More than 60% CNG and electrical vehicles are in our NMMT bus fleet. Next. When we are talking about Safai Mitras, which is the most important person, who is the most important person in cleanliness and maintaining our hygiene, is the Safai Mitra. We are saying Safai Mitra to our these workers. We are ensuring about their safety and their dignity. We are giving regular recognition to them, and every month we are giving recognition and giving felicitate them at ward levels. We are giving their salary with the minimum wages act, and we are taking care of their family also. We are taking care of their safety gears, and even we are giving all new equipments and PP equipments also. We are supporting for livelihood, and we are giving scholarship to their children and free education. Regularly, we are taking health camps and taking care of their family also, and taking health camp and insurance policy of their family also. And we are always looking after their behavioral changes, and we always there we are giving confidence to them that we are also with all peoples, and the corporation is taking care of them. We are having more than 90% connectivity with underground sewer lines. Our city is completely connected with underground sewer line. Only 1% area is not covered because of some geographical difficulties. But for that also, we are going for decentralized, decentralized STPs. We are having seven STPs which are planned for to cover more than 30 lakh population, and presently we are having a 15 lakhs population. Means we are using only 50% capacity of our STPs. For toilet maintenance and cleaning, we have given a comprehensive tender for maintenance and cleanliness of our toilets. Our contractor has to take care of their all, means tap water, if tap is not there, he has to maintain. If some small breakages are there, they have to maintain. If light problem is there, they have to maintain. Means we have given all things in that comprehensive maintenance, and we are paying them only for per seat basis. Means how much seat they are cleaning that area, we are paying for that only. We are having all mechanized machinery to clean our sewer line, and we are having 42 septic tanks to clean the septic tanks also. Regularly, we are cleaning our septic tanks, and that septic tanks are clean and dislodged by our vehicle, which are completely mechanized. Next. We are having these equipments which are shown in this chart and these photographs. Near about 11 hydrovac equipments are there, which are combined machines with jetting and recycling water system. At the same where there is a blockage, this vehicle will attend that blockage, and they will suck their area, which area is blocked. They suck sewer from that. They recycle it, and that recycled water is again used for that jetting machine. We are having 7 desludging machines, having 14 desludging vehicles, and 8 sewer inspection camera apparatus. Means these machines are with camera. When jet goes inside the pipeline, these jets are directed and operated by monitoring from these cameras. Having 34 rodding machines, which are traditional and which are very useful. We are using that 34 machines also. In some area, these are very essential. And having about 2 root cutters, hydraulic root cutters. We are having a SRU setup in which complaints are redressed, And in grievance system, we are having SLAs in which the complaint is escalated from one authority to the next authority, and within that period, we attend these complaints, and not a single complaint is escalated to senior officer. These are these pictures how that complaint is escalated, and having our own control room, which is 24/7, which is attended by our staff. For workers, we are giving these trainings with machinery, and even we are giving all these practicals also. If there is any new machinery, we will train our staff, we will train our Safai Mitras, and whenever they are going for attending the complaint, they will never feel that these machines are new or some difficulties are there. That's why regular training is there. Regularly, we are improving and upgrading our machineries, even our these tools and other things are also regularly upgraded. We are having 42 septic tank, as I told previously, and these septic tanks are monitored by lever transmitter. This lever transmitter is having our dashboard, and this dashboard is monitoring. This dashboard is located in the head office. Whenever there more than 70 to 80% the tank is full, immediately the alarm will come to this monitoring dashboard, and immediately this message goes to the desludging vehicle, and desludging vehicle will attend within 10 to 15 minutes. Means never our desludging our septic tank will full up to 80, more than 80%. Before 80% only, we will attend that septic tank, and it will be dislodged. Next. This is our regular training program. We are trained NGOs and our engineers also. They are taking a training program and giving certificates to them. And we are taking health care of these Safai Mitras with their families, and not only regular health checkup. With this regular health checkup, we are taking this bone density, eye checkup camp, dental camp, and all skin checkup camp. These all camps are taken, and every monthly we are taking a health camp. And when we are finding any Safai Mitra is having some major issues of health, then immediately we will shift him to our hospital, and in our hospital, general hospital, we take care of these which diseases or which problems he are facing. Even we are taking care of his family also, and everything is bared by corporation. Not a single money, single paisa is required to pay by Safai Mitra. Next. We are N-panel certificate trainers for training, and citizen development partners are also involved. O&M comprehensive contracts are there for STPs and sewerage, as I told. And we are taking awareness camps for Safai Mitra and our citizens also. In whole of city, we are taking awareness camp by holding banners and some street plays and digital media, and taking in involvement of NGOs also. We are having a wide structure of reforms, and we give PPE kits to them. Mechanism, as I told, that mechanism cleaning of sewer line and septic tank allowances. We are giving minimum wages, insurance facility. Their PF is also regularly taken care by corporation, and even with them, whenever the festivals are there, we are giving some additional benefits to them at the time of festival also. So frequent certification course are also there, and we are providing loans for their to take the machineries for them. We have given loans to our two Safai Mitras, and which become now contractors. This is a vehicle which is shown in picture, that we give loan to this Safai Mitra, and he is the owner of this vehicle. With loan is given with subsidy. These are training taken by the corporation. This is a camera monitored jetting machine. When jetting machine goes in the sewer line, at that time this camera is means that the operator is operating by visualizing camera blockages in camera, and like that he is giving direction to that jet. Next. This is how that the lever transmitter is working. This is a lever transmitter's digital monitoring system. IEC pictures, we are doing IEC as a direction given by central government, and that helpline which is provided by central government. We have give awareness to the whole city. These are our awareness picture campaigns. We have mascots, and we took mascot campaigns in park and gardens, and children will always enjoy with that mascot. They will very curious that what is this and which type of mascot is this and which message this mascot is given. They are asking why this mascot is doing awareness, which is this mascot, what is meant by Safai Mitra, because our citizens were aware about that sweeping workers, because sweeping worker every day they are looking that sweeping worker is sweeping on roads or in front of their area, but Safai Mitras are not frequently going to any particular area. If there is any problem, then that time only Safai Mitra will go. That's why we have make a mascot of Safai Mitra with same actual their uniform. That's why people also know that this uniform person means this is a Safai Mitra. Next. We did IEC on our vehicle, means buses which are run by corporation. We are involving them in the Dahi Handi or in the local festival celebration, and we every time which celebration which festival is there, we take care of our Safai Mitra with involving them. These are awareness campaigns through wall painting and LED screens. These are health camps taken, and we took one initiative that our brand ambassador Padma Shri Shankar Mahadevanji is there, and we took yoga session with these Safai Mitras, and that yoga session was headed by our brand ambassador Shri Shankar Mahadevanji. Main intention is that with this yoga, they should feel that for us also, brand ambassador and commissioner sir will come, and they are they are also with us for their change of mind. We did such activities. We took training program, and at the time of training program, our senior officers and we also get involved with them. Next. And our planning is that future plan, we are moving towards 100% severe network connections, that where the 1% is we are lacking. And if it is not possible, then we are going for that decentralized septic STPs for that area. But 100% we want to eradicate septic tanks. Means in future there will be not a single septic tank in Navi Mumbai. We are water secure city. We are having our own dam, and there are entrepreneurship opportunities for urban poor in sanitation spectrum. We are starting our Safai Mitra course for the Safai Mitras, and we are also giving this certification admissions to Safai Mitras for certification course, and we are giving one requirement to government that you should make a compulsory that for taking loan or other these activities, that Safai Mitra should take a certification course, and then only they are eligible, means due to which they will attend these courses, and they will get awareness of how to operate these machineries, and how to take care of their hygiene and their day-to-day activities. We are having one video which are which is created, one small short film which is created, which is showing that how we are doing awareness, and it is very heart touching video. With permission, I will play this video for 2 minutes only.
Yes, sir.
Sir, it is yet to load. Sound is not audible. You have to enable the sound. Vikrant sir, if you're around.
Is it audible?
No, sir, no. It's audible, sir.
चाहिए तो और लीजिए।
नहीं, बस बस।
नहीं, बस।
शीतली का नसीब अच्छा है, अच्छा लड़का मिला है।
नसीब से ही मिला है उसे।
हो गया? नहीं, अगर हुआ होगा तो बुलाती हूँ शीतल को।
हाँ हाँ।
शीतल, बेटी शीतल।
ए, दीदी कितनी सुंदर लग रही है ना? हाँ, बहुत ही सुंदर।
पूछिए, कुछ पूछना है तो।
विजय, कुछ पूछना है?
मुझे शीतल पसंद है। हमने पहले भी बात की है फोन पे।
मैंने कहा था ना, लव मैरिज है। चुप बैठो। अरे वैसे लड़का क्या करता है? मतलब बिजनेस है या काम पे जाता है?
नवी मुंबई महानगर पालिका में सफाई मित्र का काम करते हैं।
मतलब गटर साफ करते हैं जीजा जी।
हाँ हाँ, सच में? क्या कह रहे हो?
शांता भाभी, मुझे तो लगा बेटी का नसीब अच्छा है, लेकिन आपने तो बेटी को गटर में ही ढकेल दिया।
चाची, आधा अधूरा ज्ञान घातक होता है। जैसे आप दूसरों के घरों पे ध्यान रखते हैं ना, वैसे अपने शहर की भी जानकारी रखिए।
सफाई मित्र मतलब क्या? वो कैसे काम करते हैं, ये समझ लीजिए।
भाई साहब, अब सफाई मित्र कहिए या यार कहिए, आखिर उतरना तो मैन होल में ही है ना।
अब उसे मैन होल नहीं बल्कि मशीन होल कहते हैं।
मतलब?
बताता हूँ। नवी मुंबई महानगर पालिका ने सहभाग लिया है सफाई मित्र सुरक्षा चैलेंज में। अब तक आप जिसे मैन होल कहते थे, अब उसे मशीन होल कहते हैं।
लेकिन मशीन होल ही क्यों?
क्योंकि इसकी सफाई अब सीवर लाइन क्लीनिंग मशीन से की जाती है।
वो मैन होल में, मतलब उस मशीन होल में उतरना नहीं पड़ता?
नहीं, अगर जरूरत पड़े तो पूरी तरह से सुरक्षा कवच पहना के ही उतारा जाता है।
सुरक्षा कवच मतलब
बेटा, हेलमेट, प्रोटेक्शन गॉगल, गैस मास्क, ग्लव्स, बॉयलर सूट, गम बूट, इसी तरह पूरी तैयारी से ही उस मशीन होल में उतारते हैं।
वाह, ये तो बढ़िया काम हो गया। जी हाँ, और इनकी पूरी जिम्मेदारी नवी मुंबई महानगर पालिका अलग अलग हेल्थ कैंप के जरिए लेती है। तो अब मुझे किसी बात की चिंता नहीं।
ये देखो।
वाह, हमारे जीजा जी तो सुपर हीरो लगते हैं। ये देखा?
अब पता चला हमारे जमाई कौन है वो?
हाँ, लड़की बहुत नसीब वाली है।
तो फिर ध्यान में रखें, 1442
ये क्या है?
सफाई मित्र से संपर्क करने के लिए दिया हुआ ये टोल फ्री नंबर है। 1442। कॉल करते ही तत्काल सेवा में हाजिर।
तो शादी पक्की समझू?
सीवर या सेप्टिक टैंक के सफाई के लिए संपर्क कीजिए अपने सफाई मित्र को 14420 इस टोल फ्री क्रमांक पर। ध्यान में रखिए, सुरक्षा नहीं तो सफाई नहीं।
This was about Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Baba Saheb sir. I think जो आपने present किया, the one you presented is one of the leading examples in the country where you have mechanized the whole operation of sanitation operations, especially both sewer and non-sewer. And you have taken precautions in terms of prevention of human entry into the septic tanks. Even if they enter, they have to follow a protocol. Equally important that you have introduced is a sensor technology to manage that the sanitation workers do not get exposed to unanticipated risks, often which are hidden. So I think it's a wonderful experience. I just want to understand from you, many of these private operators, in most parts of the country, unlike in Navi Mumbai, which is a sewer system, and much of your operations are managed by your own staff or contracted staff, in other cities and other municipalities, be it in Nepal, be it in Bangladesh, be it in India, many of them are private operators. It's not completely under the control of the city corporation. Of course, the city corporations are empaneling them, doing, trying to regulate, but the same level of rigor that you have tried to introduce, the systems and processes are not easy to implement in a private sector context, where a citizen calls a number, the private operator delivers. In the process, there are incidents and accidents. What is your advice in that situation where the whole sector is managed by private operators, unlike in Navi Mumbai, which is managed by the city corporation? Any thoughts, any guidance from you? आपका कोई मशवरा है?
Sir, I think that private operators should not be there because in our city, there is not a single private operator. That's why we are responsible that we have to take care of all these things, and we are making our strength like that. But if it is not possible, to some cities, or if private operators are there, then I mentioned in my presentation that we are starting our certification course, and their local body, which is in that area, particular area, they should compile that not a single private operator will do this job without any certification. Likely means if you are doing any small business, you require some of certificates or some registrations. If you are going for a small shop also, you require some registrations like that. For this, if you are doing your private private job, you have to attend this course. You should have this certification, and you have to show certificate, means for license. You have to take a license, and for that license, this certification course must be compulsory. And in this certification course, we are teaching how to operate, means how to take care of this. Is it audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
How to take care of this complaint, and while taking care of complaint, how to take precautions our health, our life, and which precautionary measures he should take. These all guidelines, all trainings will be given in this course, and we are giving this training. We are planning to start this training course with 100%, means totally free, because the segment to whom we are giving training, these are very poor sector segment. That's why we are not charging. Only nominal registration fee will be there. And if 10 private operators are there, then I think that the chances of accident will be very less.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Stay on with us. I mean, there would be some questions addressed to you and your talk at the chat box. Please stay on with us, and if you can take up the questions and you can answer back
Sure.
in
Sure,
the chat
sir.
box. And then as the next part of the session, I would like to welcome Ms. Meghna. You heard about our city's experience on ensuring safety. Now from Meghna, we would like to hear from a state perspective, where they have been working in several of the states in India. And she would be sharing her experiences, what were the interventions, what were the challenges, and how they have actually addressed it in ensuring the safety. Over to you, Meghna. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Chari, to invite me and giving this opportunity to come and talk to you all of you. And hearing from Navi Mumbai, I think it's always a pleasure. I think what Baba Sahib presented, I think it is truly a lighthouse city of what's, and it's really showing the way for other cities in India of what can be done and what's possible. I think a lot of us, what we saw being presented, and you must have seen that many places it was written that the Safai Mitra Surakshit Sheher. Now that's a challenge, and that's an initiative that has been started as part of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs to bring about this very concerted actions around sanitation worker safety. And that's why the whole transition from manhole to even machine hole and the whole, a lot of emphasis on mechanization is what is being, done. What I'm going to present is a case of a state of Odisha where worker safety is really being seen as a pan state. All cities are setting up systems, are setting up mechanisms to ensure this across all of its 115 cities. And give me a minute, I'll just share my screen. Are the slides visible?
It is, yeah, it is visible now.
Okay.
Yes.
This is the case of Odisha, and very briefly, I represent an organization called the Urban Management Center. We are a Section 8 not-for-profit organization based in Ahmedabad, which is in Gujarat, the western part of India. We are about, as we speak, we're about 100 of us professionals working on various aspects of urban management. We're architects, engineers, social sector professionals, urban designers, I think a lot of it, and that's why we bring in a lot of cross-sectoral, understanding to what we do. I think building up, and we know this, and I'm sure that this is a situation which is very similar across South Asia. We see this a lot in India. And it is an essential public service. Even in COVID, sanitation workers were acknowledged as frontline workers, as they were equated with medical professionals, with the police, and the law enforcers who were out there, and we were all sitting in our houses when there was lockdown. But still, even if they are acknowledged as frontline workers, this is not a profession of their choice. And in my upcoming slides, I'll talk that when we've done this enumeration of workers in Odisha, 70% of them are doing this work because of some level of intergenerationality. They're doing this work because either their parents did this work, and this is irrespective of their education or whatever they have studied. But they're doing this because either they were born into a family that did sanitation work, or they're married into a family that does this. So it's heavily intergenerational. There are a lot of problems around it. And I think if we are to bucket our problems, and I think we bucket problems around sanitation workers into 5 major buckets. The first one is invisibility. And I think what we see is that, especially in cities which are completely sewered and sewerage, sewer network operations and maintenance is seen as a public sector service. But most of our cities they have mixed levels of coverage. Even as we speak, about 70% of us in India are dependent on on-site sanitation systems, some form of septic tanks. And what happens is that because this is not seen as a public sector service, there's a lot of informal sector giving this services of desludging. And many a times it's using machines, or many a times it's not. And hence there's a huge invisibility of this workforce. We don't even know who our workforce is. So the second is, the biggest problem is occupational hazards, and we all know about it. There have been enough studies that have spoken about that the average life of sanitation workers is 10 to 15 years lesser than an average person. And then even if there are increasing fatalities, Professor Chari did talk about the number of deaths, and they've been tracking it. We've been tracking the number of deaths, of why they're happening, where they're happening. But along with deaths, there's also an increased disease burden that sanitation workers face. In our survey, we also found that sanitation workers, even if you take the urban poor as a spectrum, sanitation workers form the furthest end of that spectrum. And hence, they generally lack access to any social safety nets, any financial safety nets. Our data showed in Odisha, and it's even in Tamil Nadu, that many of them even don't have access to the subsidized food that's given out by the government of India. That's the ration cards, etc. And that's a huge problem, right? Because it's also linked to nutrition, it's linked to education, it's linked to enhance the intergenerationality. And financial security. This is a high-risk job. How much are we paying our sanitation workers? In many of our states, we have the Department of Labor mandating minimum wages. And what we've figured out that sanitation as a sector, and specifically areas like when we're talking about sewer line maintenance and when we're talking about septic tank cleaning, these are high-risk, high-skilled areas. And these are not then even, decoded as highly skilled. And that's the whole issue related to wages. Of course, then comes the whole issue about insurance and hence the financial insecurity about all of it. We also, we have a very stringent act, which is the Prohibition of Employment of Manual Scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act. We call it the PEMSRA Act, the PEMSRA Act. Very, very stringent, but it is so stringent, but we still are not able to enforce it. We have, and I think somebody in the chat box was talking about why are septic tanks bursting, etc., or what's happening, because they are not properly designed. We don't build septic tanks to standards. We have standards very clearly laid out in our National Building Code. But when a building plan approval process happens, nobody is going and checking it thoroughly whether the septic tank is built up to standards. Sometimes the septic tank is built at the backyard where the desludging machine cannot go. And hence then you have some, and that's what sometimes necessitates manual entry and, emptying of that septic tank. Septic tanks sometimes are so huge. And that's why the gas buildup, they're not properly ventilated. And all of these are weak enforcement systems. And of course, the biggest challenge to this sector of workers is the lack of social safety net. Lack of, linkages to various schemes that our national government has or our state governments have. And this is what we're trying to solve for when we're talking about in Odisha. And I'll talk about, what's happening. Some images, I think this is what we really, really encounter. And I'm sure this is something, women in sanitation work, you don't see a lot of women in the septic tank and the sewer line work, but you see a lot of women doing, say, for example, doing a lot of work in drain cleaning, in cleaning of community toilets and public toilets. And so the gender aspect of sanitation is also a concern. All of these are issues that we really encounter, and that's why I think we started with this whole work in Odisha. It's now looking at the, what is the learnings in Odisha. It's now come to the state of Tamil Nadu, which is also implementing a scheme called as the Sanitation Workers Development Scheme. And now nationally, this is going to be, it's going to be implemented through a scheme called Namaste, which is the National Action for Mechanized Sanitation Ecosystem. So again, I'll be talking about visibility. I'll be talking about occupational safety, financial safety, and social safety, and what we did in Odisha. So the first thing was visibilizing workers. Do we know who our workers are? Unless we know this, how are we going to do? And so we started this whole process of finding sanitation workers in all 115 cities of Odisha. And the whole emphasis was to ensure that no one is left behind. We had peer-led enumeration of workers done. So we had SHG members from the sanitation workers community help us do the survey. And then there was a lot of processes to ensure that there was validation, there was, and then they're all being given Garima I cards. It's the only state in India which has done a complete granular survey of sanitation workers across all of its cities. And the process is on. It's a dynamic process. It's continuous. Even today, if somebody wants, because it's not, this whole database has to be kept dynamic. So that those processes are also now in place. So these are all done on an app which we call as the beneficiary management system, done by SHG members. There's 100% error flagging. There is validation. There are workers who get SMSs saying that we've validated you. And so if there are any name checks, etc., that need to happen also is part of that. This is an open source portal that we've used here. It's also now being used in Tamil Nadu and for the Namaste thing. It's multilingual, very robust. The user interface is such that it's being used by a lot of SHG members, self-help group members as well. And what essentially it's giving us is a lot of granular data of what is happening, where is happening, and hence, because now we know that workers come from what strata, workers, what's the gender distribution, what kind of entitlements do they already have, what are the gaps. We are able to then take out the gap list and give it to the respective departments to now help bridge the gap. For example, ration cards that I was talking about, we've started now working with the food department to start giving these ration cards across cities, linking them with insurances. This is the tertiary healthcare insurance card that's a state scheme that's been given. This is called the Biju Swasth Kalyan Yojana. It's being given to sanitation workers. And also, so the whole process has been that now there is a whole mechanism of doing health checkups. The Housing and Urban Development Department has tied up with the health department. And so there's now a regime of health checkups that happen. This is the Garima card, that the worker gets. For example, this is Junulatana from Cuttack and Lakshmi. When we had, this is how she was an informal worker. She was enumerated under the Garima scheme. And when Cuttack Municipal Corporation wanted to give away operations for cesspool maintenance, both of them, along with two other male members, so they've been given operations of 2 sewer sucker machines, and that's what they are now very successfully operating in the city of Cuttack. Again, going back to the thing about wages, here the Housing and Urban Development Department in Odisha worked and lobbied hard with the Department of Labor at the state level, and they actually recognized our core sanitation workers as highly skilled and skilled workers. What this has actually ensured is that that you have now enhanced wages being given to the workers, and now even the workers know about it. And the workers are almost, they're seeing almost a 50% increase in wages in a few cities as well. Beyond this, what the Housing and Urban Development Department said, that the day you do say sewer line cleaning or a desludging, we will give you additional 15% of risk and hardship allowance as well. And that is something, and this is something that's going to these workers as we speak. This is the Gazette, which is talking about that. There is group life insurance for all validated core sanitation workers across Odisha. And this is something that is still happening. The RFP just came out very early this month, and they were receiving responses. Now, the Act very clearly says that you cannot actually enter a manhole, and which Baba Sahib's, I think, presentation in Navi Mumbai also spoke about. But looking at the way our cities are, we have a lot of areas in our cities which are very dense, which are very narrow lanes, or sometimes it is so complex to go, and even with very heavy jetting equipment also, it's impossible to unclog that sewer line. Or sometimes the septic tank is so further away that the machine cannot reach the septic tank. And for these purposes, what the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has come out with guidelines which are called as sanitation, that all cities have to form an emergency response sanitation unit. So this is all larger cities form one, and then you have to form this one at a district level. What it says is that you can actually have confined space entry, and if you see even other developed nations, they have a cadre called as sewer divers. So, but you do it with utmost care, with utmost safety precautions, with all kinds of hazard assessments, etc., being done, trained professionals going in, an ambulance right there on call, and a responsible sanitation authority who's a very senior officer signing off saying that I know this, I'm aware of this situation, and I take responsibility, and I know what's happening. Things like that. So this whole mechanism and this whole system has been set across all cities in Odisha. And if you see that the hazard assessment happens, somebody signs off that we might require a manual entry, and that's why this is happening. And the whole procurement of PPEs and safety devices has also happened. There was a lot of questions also on the chat around PPEs and safety devices. So even if you look at workers who are just doing on surface cleaning, they don't have to go inside or do confined space entry. For them, generally, if you look at the PPE set costs something close to 4,000 Indian rupees, which is about $50. But if you look at the regime in which they have to give, like for example, nitrile gloves, we have kind of said that at least every 15 days you need to give a set of nitrile gloves, because that's where the wear and tear happens really a lot. The coverall that you're seeing needs to be given twice. If you take all of that into account, then it comes to something like 11,000 odd Indian rupees per worker per year. Even this whole safety devices like the gas detector, because gas detection, be it in a manhole, be it in a septic tank, what we've realized is that you don't have the same gases at all levels, and the gas detector needs to have the ability to monitor different gases at different levels. So even if you buy that, the DeWitt system, airflow, respiratory unit, all of that, it doesn't cost much, and that's the range that I'd written in the chat box as well. Along with the occupational hazard, one thing that we really saw was that workers said that, okay, you're giving us all these PPEs to wear. That's great. Where do we wear these PPEs? We can't wear these PPEs from home and come to work. And we can't go back because they are bulky in the sense that then, so the government started creating what they call as the Garima Grihas, these lounges, which have places for workers to rest. They have lockers, they have drinking water, they have washing facilities where they come, they bathe, they change into their regular clothes and then go home. They store their PPEs in these lockers and then they go home. So all of these have really, and you saw this in the film also, Babuli, who was the hero, he's one of our star Kalakar, so to say, from Bhubaneswar. You saw him talking about the Garima Grihas as well. And I think just giving this uniform has given so much of visibility to workers. And initially they used to say that when we used to go for even cleaning a manhole or outside somebody's house, they won't even offer, let us sit near to their houses, forget offering them water. But now, because they're wearing this uniform, they're seen as a technical cadre, and now citizens are coming, they're asking them for chai, will you have a cup of chai? And so that whole I think that whole, the way they're seen has really changed in the eyes of the citizens as well. Even the kind of trainings that need to be given, and there's a lot of talk about training, but what is the pedagogy you need to really set up? What is the kind of, methodology in which you need to train workers? Because sanitation workers are mostly illiterate or maximum semi-literate. How do you train them? You can't make them sit in a classroom and teach them anything. It has to be very, very hands-on. And how do you do that? Also, when we were looking at data of deaths of workers, we clearly saw that in every incident that happened, there were 2 to 3 workers dying in each of this incident. Clearly, the person who was standing outside, who was supposed to be the rescuer or, be the person who goes for help or who ensures to do, is also jumping in. So all of this alluding to the fact that training is really required. And so in Odisha, the government has made this simulation septic tank, a simulation manhole or a machine hole, to kind of very clearly explain how do you evacuate, how do you test gases, etc. I've already spoken about convergence with the health department. Every worker has a health book, has a health card. There's an SOP for what health checkups need to happen, at what regime. So now there's a trend of data of workers, whether it's improving, whether what's happening. If there is requirement for tertiary, support, they're being referred to tertiary hospitals. Lot of IC for citizens to actually do, for what's the citizens' role in all of this. And so even it's their responsibility to ensure the worker safety. Various, and you see they very, very proudly wear these uniforms, displaying the Garima ID, some images of confined space, and these are some things that, from the workers themselves, Garima Graha, and now this is all being, taken up under the Namaste scheme nationally. And I think this is, I'll just end here and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meghna. That was elaborate, that was extensive, very exhaustive. But then, of course, I keep the platform open for any questions from any of the participants, if you have any. If not, I would again thank Meghna and ask her to stay back and keep a note on the chat box. If questions as they come, you can take them. As the next part of the session, I would like to welcome Ms. Arva from CEPT University, where she would be speaking on the scheduled desludging they have been working in certain of the cities in Maharashtra, in the city of why they began with and they have expanded. I'm sure she would be sharing the experiences, how they have actually worked out, what was the strategy, how they convinced the different stakeholders, and how the whole system works around the scheduled desludging, with the desludgers to the households, to the government interface, how they work on. She will give us a story or a picture of how it has worked out, and now that they have already implemented it. Having said that, I would hand it over to Arwa. Please take over.
Yeah, thank you. As mentioned, today, my session, I'll be focusing on our experience of scheduled desludging in one of the cities in Maharashtra, which of course now has been scaled up across the state. So just I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Can you make it full screen? Yeah,
right.
That's it.
Yeah, so to give a background to the participants, my name is Arba Bharmal. I am associated with the Center for Water and Sanitation at CEPT University, Ahmedabad. Our MOU is with the state government of Maharashtra, to implement Swachh Bharat mission. In the state of Maharashtra, it is termed as Swachh Maharashtra Mission, wherein a focus on FSSM and now a lot on citywide inclusive sanitation, that is CWIS approach, has been taken up, and the government is really focused on implementing it. So our today's session is focused on scheduled desludging. So I'll be presenting our for the model CWIS city of Y in Maharashtra, but it has been now scaled up at the state level, and many cities in Maharashtra are implementing this approach. So to give you a background of the city of Y is a temple town. It's like a small town which is of high relevance due to the Krishna river that flows across the city. And it is one of the representative of many Indian, almost 4,000 plus small and medium towns in India. So the population is around 43,000, and the slum population is around 4%, almost 9,000 households. So CWAS began its work in Y even before the Swachh Maharashtra mission in the year 2013. And like most cities in India, there was high dependence on community toilets. So Maharashtra as a state is highly dependent on community toilets, which is one of our focus areas to reduce the dependency. And there was open defecation. There was around 2 to 3% of open defecation. Majority of the septic tanks were oversized and access covers of septic tanks were sealed. Conveyance, meaning the desludging was on a demand-based mode and with a user charge approach with 1,000 rupees or maybe more also, depending on the private sector. There was no treatment of the fecal waste that was generated, and the disposal was happening without any treatment in fields or open lands, etc. So when we began our work, the main focus, and I'm sure the cities where you have been working on, it is very important to have institutionalization. And in order to do that, we have supported the government to bring in a council resolution. So in the Indian government, I'm sure in your cities also, without a resolution, without a council resolution passed in a general body meeting, most of the decisions are financial or any other are relating to that. So we, along with the council, developed a resolution which covered that citywide inclusive sanitation is mandatory, involving private sector, scheduled cleaning, land for treatment facility, and tax. So I will come to the sanitation tax, which is the major requirement for implementing scheduled desludging. This was passed, and it was one of the first cities in India to pass a resolution for FSSM. So as most of you know, that desludging can be done through two ways. Either it is on a demand-based mode, which is like a complaint system, wherein you raise a complaint and your tanks are desludged. But scheduled desludging, what we are trying to implement in Maharashtra is that there is a scheduled practice around it. So there are regulations set in place, there is awareness generation, private sector is engaged, SHGs are engaged, and number of trucks, number of septic tanks to be desludged in a month is already fixed. So this is a basic difference between both the systems. So I'm sure most of you know about what impacts it would create, what are the benefits, but I'll just quickly run through it. It's more inclusive in nature because it is not levying, it is not dependent on the private sector to levy decide the amount of how much is charged to desludge your septic tanks. Prices, again, because economies of scale works here, so prices are equitable, they are more reasonable. Now, behavior change. Now, suppose if there are households which have smaller septic tanks, so there is some misconceptions that if I use it more, my tank will be full and I'll have to pay the money to clean it. Hence, there's a behavior change attitude, because here, if it is on scheduled desludging, it is already covered in the property tax. My previous, the session that was going on previously, it talked about sanitation worker safety. So when we talk about scheduled desludging, the major issue of sanitation worker getting into the chambers, and because the sludge solidifies, they need to enter down, break it, and then empty it. So this doesn't happen because tanks are desludged once in 3 years. There is infrastructure optimization because the trucks, fuel, routes, everything is worked out. And of course, the environmental benefits, because if it is conveyed, it will be treated properly. And that's where the environmental benefits come in picture. Now, this is how the zoning was done. Now, in order to implement scheduled desludging, it is important to zone it keeping in mind the site conditions. So now in case of Y, we divided it into 3 zones because desludging was calculated to be done as once in 3 years. So this is how the zoning was done. Now this zoning was done based on the accumulation of the wards, septic tank calculations, like each of the zone getting more or less the same number of septic tanks, and the route planning. So this is the route planning that was done. Now the major component here is involvement of the private sector. So majorly the benefit is that the ownership of the assets. So sometimes councils do not have either the human resource or the infrastructure. That means they do not have vehicles or do not have maintained vehicles to take up this service. So in order to get away with this, one aspect is to include the private sector. So in Y, transparent bidding process was done to engage the private sector. And the other important part is the performance link payment. What we have come across is that private sector have inhibitions to work with the local governments because of delayed payments. So in order to how do you actually go around it? So we then had performance linked payments, and same is with the government, that they were given targets. Based on the targets, the payment was released. And again, on sanitation worker safety, there were clauses to ensure the safety, use of PPE and monitoring, replacement of the gears, etc. is ensured into the contracts. And the awareness generation that I mentioned previously, it is the responsibility of the private sector to do it. So here again, your human resource for the government becomes lesser. For the delayed payments, there's an escrow mechanism that was set in place. For that, I'll come to the slide later, but I'll explain you what the escrow mechanism is. This is the slide that I was talking about. So here, it is a performance-linked annuity model in which it is like a tripartite agreement between the private sector, the government, and the citizens, and the bank. So in this, all the properties are paying the sanitation tax or a property tax that goes into the accounts of the local government. From this account, 3 months of advance payment is transferred into the escrow account. And from this, the payments are made. So hence, this provides a risk mitigation for the private sector for delayed payments. And then since it is a performance-based contract, so the local government is also ensured of the services that the private sector is providing. So here in this model, the capital cost and the O&M cost are borne by the private sector. So in Y, the FSTP has been set up to treat the fecal matter. So here we have a thermal based, it is on pyrolysis, what we call the pyrolysis technology has been done. It is funded by BMGS Foundation. Since 2008, the plant has been running. and almost 25 plus million liters of septage has been treated. It is a 70 KLD plant, and it occupies a very less space. That is the major thing, that if you have less space in cities, then you can opt for such container-based kind of FSTPs. The next part is on performance linking. Like I mentioned, that the entire contract is performance based. If it is performance based, it is very important to monitor it. So how does a ULB monitor it? So there were two ways that we did it. First, we did it through a paper-based system, but now we have shifted it to a digital mode. So when it was paper-based, there were these 4 copies of forms which were same but had different colors. Each of it was on with all the stakeholders. Like one was with the council, one was with the property holder, other with the treatment plant, and the last one with the the desludgers, the private sector. So this is a model form that we had provided. It had all details linked to the entire service, right from the owner details to the septic tanks to the volumes that have been generated. Now, this is the second mode of monitoring that we have now implemented. It is now operational in Y. It is through an app called the Sanitab app. This is available on the public domain. It is also in local language. It is in Marathi in Y, which the sanitation workers can easily use, as well as the citizens can understand what data is being filled up. This is from the side of the citizens. So they are also able to give and understand what is being noted, give their feedbacks. And second is from the ULB perspective. So the dashboard that you can see on the right side, this is how it looks on the screen when you are opening this entire Sanitab dashboard. So wherein for a chief officer or for an engineer, if they want to understand the real-time status of scheduled desludging, they can get the entire summary of the work that has been done by the private sector. The next step was on awareness generation. So this was in why it was the first time that such a public service was being implemented. So hence, it was very important not only for the government, but also for the citizens to understand what it is. So hence, there were many modes of awareness generation done through various medias. And most of the responsibilities of doing this were included in the contract of the private sector. This is the mapping of the green blocks that you can see here are all properties that have been covered for the first round of scheduled desludging. So Y in 2022 has completed its first 3-year cycle. So all septic tanks in the city have been cleaned. And now in the 4th year, the second round has been started. So private sector again has been engaged. What we are very happy about is that the second round has been entirely implemented by the local government themselves without our support. So since, of course, it was doing the tendering process again and everything, but they took the ownership of the services. So now in Y, almost 3,000 plus septic tanks have been desludged. And it is on a fully mechanized mode without any manual, manual scavenging incident has not happened, or any leakages haven't happened that much, because more or less the performance is monitored. So hence, the private sector is very much vigilant on the type of services that they are offering. And when it comes to, say, mission-related milestones, in India, we have the ODF model that we call. So it is ODF, ODF plus, and ODF plus plus. So Y has reached the ODF plus plus status. And under Swachh Sarvekhan also, it gets very good marks because there are marks for scheduled desludging also. So generally, most of the times we get questions on that why to do scheduled desludging. You know, like on a normal basis, demand-based mode is already working fairly smoothly in cities. So one of the major, that is, in order to prove that, we have done assessments on the quality of water. So be it groundwater and the river water quality, pre and post scheduled desludging have been done scientifically. So this not only impacts the performance of the septic tank, but it also affects the outflow. Because when we have open drainage network, most of the outflow goes into the Krishna River directly. So we've taken all the outflows, we've tested them, and we have found that there is reduction in nitrogen, TSS, organic loads, etc. Pre and post the services have been done. So this is like after 2013 till 2022-23. This is the entire status of improvements across the sanitation value chain that the city of Y has been able to achieve. So now there is almost 85 to 90% of individual household toilet coverage through sanitation credit, through SHG engagements. Community and public toilets are managed by the private sector, but are more better monitored. And like I mentioned, the first round has been done, second round has been initiated. Sanitation tax is already levied, but now in Y, there is a flat 60 rupees tax, which is now being moved to percentage-based property tax. So a percentage of the property tax will be allocated for FSM-related activities. So that is under process. Sanitab and Sanitrack online monitoring systems are working well. Council themselves are using it. The FSTP is operational. I forgot to mention one point, that the FSTP is energy surplus, meaning that it is now powered, solar powered. It's a solar powered FSTP. And reuse of the treated wastewater is being done through an urban forest. So there is an urban forest in Y where all the treated used water is being used there. And this again mitigates the carbon emissions. So it kind of links to even the climate change aspects. And engagement of women, since Y is a CV city, we have made focused efforts on gender inclusivity. So women have been engaged, women have been oriented on what is scheduled desludging, what is FSSM, etc. And of course, sanitation worker safety is ensured much more now. And institutionalization of all these activities have been done through council resolutions, budgetary allocations, and training sessions with the ULB. So in a way that it becomes sustainable in the future. I've covered most of these points. So these are like, as not only Y. Now, if we want to, we have been trying to scale it up in many cities in Maharashtra, be it Kolhapur, Satara, Khopoli, Narkhed. And these have been now, scale up has been not only through like pilot cities, but now it is through government resolutions, government circulars on scheduled desludging. And there are directives from the state government to implement scheduled desludging through all of these focus areas that I just mentioned. So it's not only scheduled desludging, but along with it, there are an array of activities which brings in the inclusivity aspects also. So the key, if we come to the key factors of why it has worked, is that scheduled desludging has to be provided as a municipal service. It's not something that it can't be on a user-based mode. It has to be a public service. Hence, it has to be part of the taxation systems. Like how we, in India, it is SWM is something similar we are trying to project it. And there there's higher degree of desludging acceptance rate. So in Y, there was around 95% acceptance rate, and hence this is linked to indirect cost recovery. So we are in a way avoiding user-based model, and proper monitoring and IEC campaigns, as I mentioned earlier also, monitoring is a very important aspect of this service because it is linked to the performance of the private sector and even the ULB. And the case of Y, of course, wouldn't have been possible without partnerships and collaborations, both at the foundation level and even at the state level, without our partners. Yeah, thank you. So I come to an end of our presentation.
Thank you so much, Arva. That's, I mean, such a calm, serene kind of presentation. Thank you so much. That was nice. But there is a question. I tried to address it, but there is a question from one of our participants in the chat box. I would like to read you the question. Miss Angela from Zambia, she asks, how does scheduled desludging, I mean, this is something you already spoken, she just wants a more confirmation about it. How does scheduled desludging or scheduled emptying promote open defecation-free sustainability?
Okay. I
At a point of time, you were talking about it.
Yeah,
So she
yeah.
picked up that particular phrase and she brought it in.
Yes, I think it's from two aspects, I would say, when it comes to open defecation and probably how does it impact it. So one is on constructing individual toilets. If we are constructing individual toilets, septic tanks is mandatory. Now, if scheduled desludging has been implemented in any city, a resident is ensured that if I construct a septic tank, it will be desludged once in 3 years, and I do not have to pay higher user charges for it. So that is a very much motive towards for constructing individual toilets, I would say, and bringing in the aspect of equity also.
True. Thank you. And then there's one more question. Is the scheduled desludging for only septic tanks, or is it also for dugwell latrines?
Okay. So in our experience, most of the cities in India, in urban parts of India that we have been working on, especially in Maharashtra, are septic tanks. So we haven't yet come across open dug or toilets, but in technicality, the way scheduled desludging works is through a pipe. It's like a 9-inch dia pipe that is put into the septic tank and it is desludged. So I'm sure that looking at not technically, but from a practical perspective, it should be possible.
And the last question from one of our participants, I would take it as a last question because we already overshot. Probably we have overshot the time, if I'm not wrong. Or we have some time, Jyotsna.
I mean, yeah, we can.
We have a
take
few
one.
minutes, right? And
Yeah,
then we need
yeah.
to talk about the assignment
Yes,
also.
yes.
How can one access SaniTab and SaniTrack? Is it possible for you to share the link with us so that we can share it with the participants?
Yes.
Or, I mean, is it kind of accessible for the general people also, for them to understand?
Yes, of course. So SaniTab app is available on Google Play Store. I could share you the English version of it is available. Of course, we have made a lot of relative questions have been added, etc. But the basic version of it is there, and I'll share the link with you, and you could share it with the participants.
That would be so great.
Yeah.
And one more question from one of our Nepali participants is, what are the provisions of slum dwellers for regular desludging?
Yes.
How is that in a city?
Slum dwellers is one. Scheduled desludging, as I mentioned, the aspect of equity, especially for slum dwellers, when we talk about, is that generally, if you see, slums are very much congested. And it is very difficult to desludge septic tanks in slums. So two aspects. One is on the practicality of it on field, and secondly is the financing. So for a slum dweller to pay user charges to desludge septic tanks is not correct, is not equitable. Hence, sanitation tax has been levied. Sanitation tax system for scheduled desludging is what is prescribed and not user-based model. That is one, for slum dwellers especially. And second is that in Y also, the pipes are interconnected. Like they have a joint system wherein it is easily possible to access even the most congested areas in slum through scheduled desludging, of course, because once you do it in one round, the second round becomes relatively easier. So in Y also, we have been able to cover all the properties in slum in spite of them being on a very higher topography and congested areas.
Thank you so much. I guess there are no more questions. If there are any participants who would like to raise their hands and put up a question, we keep it open for a few seconds. If not, again, a big thank you to Ms. Arwa for sharing your time and experiences of Y City.